Admiral Carl Henderson stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Colossus and looked out at the stars. The massive warship stretched 5 kilometers from front to back. It was the biggest ship humans had ever built. Carl had spent 3 years learning every part of this giant vessel. Now he commanded 50,000 people who lived and worked inside its metal walls. The bridge was quiet this morning. Only the soft hum of computers filled the air. Carl walked to the main viewing window and watched. Space drift by. The Colossus moved slowly through the dark between stars. Its huge engines pushed the ship forward like a mountain floating through nothing. Dr. Nina Grant sat at her station near the back of the bridge. She was the ship's expert on alien life. For 2 years, she had been listening to space, hoping to find signs of other living things. Her screens showed nothing but empty darkness and distant stars. Nina had almost given up hope of finding anything interesting. Then her computer made a beeping sound. Nina looked at her screen and saw something new. A small dot appeared on her display. She pressed buttons to get more information. The dot grew bigger on her screen. Nina's eyes went wide. "Admiral Henderson," she called out. "I think you need to see this." Carl walked over to Nina's station. Other people on the bridge turned to listen. Pete Collins, the navigation officer, left his post to look at Nina's screen. Victoria Stone, the chief tactical officer, also came. "Over. What do you have, Doctor?" Carl asked. Nina pointed at her screen. "There's something out there. Something big. It's moving toward us from deep space." Carl looked at the screen. He saw a dot that looked like a star, but it was moving. Stars did not move like that. "How big is it?" Carl asked. Nina pressed more buttons. Numbers appeared on her screen. She read them twice to make sure they were right. "Admiral, this thing is huge. Much bigger than our ship. Maybe 10 times bigger." Pete Collins checked his own screens. "It's moving fast, too. Coming from outside our solar system. If it keeps going the same way, it will reach the outer colonies in 6 days." Carl felt his heart beat faster. The outer colonies were home to millions of people. They had farms and mines and cities. If something dangerous was heading that way, Carl needed to stop it. Captain Danny Walsh walked onto the bridge. He was Carl's second in command and ran the day-to-day work on the ship. Danny looked at the worried faces around Nina's station. "What's going on?" Danny asked. Carl pointed at the screen. "We have an unknown object heading toward the colonies. It's big and moving fast." Danny studied the numbers on Nina's screen. He had been in space for 20 years and had never seen anything like this. Could it be natural? Maybe an asteroid or comet? Nina shook her head. "No, the shape is wrong. And it's moving too straight. This thing is following a path, like it knows where it wants to go." Victoria Stone checked her weapons systems. All the guns and missiles on the Colossus were working perfectly. But she wondered if their weapons would be enough against something so large. "Admiral," Victoria said, "should I prepare the weapons?" Carl thought for a moment. The Colossus was built to protect human space from any threat. That was why it carried so many guns and had such thick armor. But Carl hoped he would never have to use those weapons against living creatures. "Not yet," Carl said. "First, we need to know what we're dealing with." Pete Collins worked at his station, calculating the best way to intercept the unknown object. "Admiral, if we change course now, we can meet this thing in 3 days. That would put us between it and the colonies." Carl nodded. "Do it. Set course." To intercept, the bridge crew started working. Pete told the engine room to change direction. Victoria checked all the ship's defenses. Nina tried to learn more about the mysterious object. Danny coordinated everything to make sure the ship ran smoothly. Carl walked back to the viewing window. Out there in the darkness, something was coming. toward human space. He did not know if it was friend or enemy. He did not know if it was even alive. But Carl knew his job. The Colossus was humanity's shield against the unknown dangers of space. All hands, this is Admiral Henderson. Carl spoke into the ship's communication system. His voice reached every person on the giant vessel. We have detected an unknown object approaching our colonies. We are changing course to investigate. All departments should prepare for possible contact with non-human intelligence. Around the ship, 50,000 people heard the announcement. Some felt excited. Some felt scared. All of them knew they were about to make history. Nina continued studying her screens. The object was still too far away to see clearly, but she could tell it was artificial. Someone or something had built it. This meant humans were not alone in the universe. Admiral, Nina said quietly, I think we're about to meet our first aliens. Carl looked at the dot on Nina's screen. In 3 days, the Colossus would reach. That object. Carl hoped the meeting would be peaceful. But if it was not, his massive warship was ready for anything. The great ship turned in space, its engines burning bright against the stars. The Colossus was going to meet the unknown carrying the hopes and fears of all humanity in its metal hull. 3 days later, the U.S. Colossus slowed down as it came close to the unknown object. Admiral Carl Henderson stood on the bridge, watching the main screen as their target grew larger. What he saw made him catch his breath. The object was not a ship like anything humans had ever built. It looked more like a giant flower floating in space. Curved walls grew outward like petals, and soft lights glowed from inside. The whole thing seemed to be alive, pulsing gently like a heart-beating dot. Dr. Nina Grant stared at her readings in amazement. Admiral, this thing is incredible. It's not made of metal or plastic. The hull appears to be some kind of living material, like coral or bone, but much stronger. Pete Collins checked the size measurements again. It's 15 kilometers long and 12 kilometers wide. Much bigger than our ship, but it's moving so slowly, almost drifting. Lucy Torres, the communications specialist, worked at her station trying to pick up any signals from the alien vessel. She had been listening for 3 days without finding anything. Then her equipment detected something new. Admiral, I'm getting something, Lucy called out. It's not radio waves like we use. This is different, like music, but with numbers mixed in. Carl walked over to Lucy's station. Can you understand any of it? Lucy shook her head. Not yet. But there are patterns, mathematical sequences. Whoever is sending this knows about numbers and science. On the main screen, the alien ship continued to pulse with soft colors. Blues and greens flowed across its surface like waves on an ocean. It was beautiful and peaceful, nothing like the dark metal warships humans built. Kevin Murphy, the science officer, ran scans on the alien vessel. His readings showed things that should not be possible. Admiral, this ship has no engines that I can detect. No fuel tanks, no reactor cores. But it's definitely moving under its own power. Danny Walsh stood next to Carl, watching the alien ship with wonder. How does it work then? Kevin looked at his screens again. I think the whole ship is alive. It might be growing its way through space, like a plant reaching toward sunlight. Frank Adams, the chief engineer, studied the energy readings from the alien vessel. He had built engines and weapons for 30 years, but this was unlike anything he had ever seen. Whatever powers that thing, it's completely organic. No metals, no circuits, no weapons that I can find. Carl felt relieved to hear there were no weapons, but he stayed careful. Keep scanning. Make sure we're not missing anything. Lucy suddenly sat up straight at her station. Admiral, the signal just changed. It's getting stronger and more complex. I think they know we're here. Carl made a decision, that would change everything. Try to respond, Lucy. Send them our basic mathematical sequences. Let them know we're intelligent. Lucy worked quickly, sending simple math problems into space. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 2 equals 4. The square root of 9 is 3. Basic ideas that any smart species would understand. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then Lucy's equipment lit up with new signals. They're responding, Lucy said with excitement. They sent back our math problems with the right answers. And they're adding new ones. On the main screen, the alien ship began to change. Sections of its surface opened like flower petals. From inside, smaller ships emerged. These looked like seeds or pods, smooth and round, glowing with the same soft light. Victoria Stone watched the smaller ships carefully. Admiral, I count 12 objects coming from the main vessel. They're moving toward us very slowly. Carl felt his heart beating. Fast, but he tried to stay calm. Are they armed? Victoria checked her scanners. No weapons detected. They're smaller than our shuttles and seem to be made of the same living material as the big ship. One of the small ships moved ahead of the others. Lucy's equipment received a new signal, different from the mathematical messages. This one sounded almost like a voice, but speaking in a language no human had ever heard. Admiral, Lucy said, I think they're trying to talk to us. The signal is coming from the lead ship. Carl knew this was the most important moment in human history. Can you translate any of it? Lucy listened carefully to the alien sounds. Slowly, she began to understand patterns in their speech. I think they're introducing themselves. The voice sounds gentle, almost singing. Wait, I think I'm starting to get some words. Lucy worked for 20 minutes, using the ship's computers to analyze the alien language. Finally, she looked up with wonder. In her eyes, Admiral, they call themselves the Serenari. The voice belongs to someone with a very long name, but the closest translation would be Harmony of Distant Stars. Carl stepped forward. What are they saying? Lucy listened to more signals from the alien ship. Her face grew worried as she translated. They're asking about our weapons. They want to know what terrible enemy we're fighting. They say they've never seen a war machine as large as ours. Carl realized the problem immediately. The aliens saw the Colossus as a weapon, not as a home for 50,000 people. To them, humans must look like the most violent species in the galaxy. They're scared of us, Carl said quietly. Kevin Murphy looked up from his science station. Admiral, I'm reading massive life signs from their big ship. There could be millions of beings inside that vessel. And from what I can tell, they have no defenses at all. Carl understood that humanity had just met a species that knew nothing about war or weapons. The peaceful aliens were terrified of the massive human battleship, thinking it meant humans were facing some cosmic horror that required such powerful defenses. For the first time in his career, Admiral Carl Henderson wished his ship looked less like a weapon of war. Admiral Carl Henderson watched the alien ship on his main screen and felt something was wrong. The beautiful vessel had stopped its gentle pulsing. The soft lights that flowed across its surface now flickered with urgent flashes of red and orange. Lucy Torres worked frantically at her communication station, trying to understand the flood of signals coming from the Serenari ship. The alien voices sounded distressed, speaking faster and with higher tones than before. Admiral, Lucy said with worry in her voice, they're panicking. Harmony of Distant Stars is trying to calm the others, but the fear is spreading through their entire ship. Dr. Nina Grant studied the readings from the alien vessel. The biosignatures are spiking. Heart rates, brain activity, stress hormones. The whole population inside that ship is terrified. Carl felt helpless. He wanted to help the aliens understand that humans meant no harm, but every attempt to communicate seemed to make things worse. The Colossus was simply too big and too obviously military for the peaceful Serenari to accept. Pete Collins noticed movement on his navigation screen. "Admiral, the alien ship is changing course. They're turning away from us and from the colonies." Carl watched the massive alien vessel slowly rotate in space. Its flower-like structure folded inward, as if the ship was trying to hide from the human warship. The smaller scout vessels quickly returned to their mother ship, disappearing into its organic hull. Kevin Murphy picked up new energy readings. "Admiral, something's happening to space around their ship. I think they're preparing to leave." Lucy received another transmission from Harmony of Distant Stars. The alien's voice sounded sad and frightened as Lucy translated. "They're saying, 'Goodbye, Admiral. They think we're guarding this area against some terrible enemy, and they don't want to disturb our war preparations.'" Carl stepped forward. "Tell them we're not at war. Tell them we want to be friends." Lucy tried to send that message, but the alien responses showed they did not believe it. To the Serenari, no peaceful species would build a ship like the Colossus, unless they faced the most dangerous enemies in the universe. Frank Adams detected energy building up in the alien ship's living hull. "Admiral, they're powering up some kind of travel system. If they leave now, we may never see them again." Then Helen Price, the security chief, spotted something new on the long-range sensors. "Admiral, we have multiple contacts approaching from deep space. More alien ships, coming fast." Carl felt his heart sink. If more alien ships arrived while the Serenari were already scared, the situation could become impossible to fix. Greg Taylor confirmed the readings from the weapons station. "At least 20 new contacts, possibly more. They're all moving toward our position." Lucy received an emergency transmission from the Serenari ship. Harmony of Distant Stars sounded desperate as the message came through. "Admiral, they're calling. For help. They're warning the other ships about us. They think we're some kind of Deathbringers." The new alien ships began arriving over the next hour. Each one was as beautiful and organic as the first, but all were different shapes and sizes. Some looked like giant flowers, others like swimming creatures made of light. All of them kept their distance from the Colossus. Beth Morris, the intelligence analyst, studied the new arrivals. "Admiral, these aren't warships either. I'm reading massive life signs from each vessel. Families, children, elderly beings. These are refugee ships." Carl realized he was looking at an entire civilization fleeing from something terrible. The Serenari were not explorers or traders. They were refugees looking for a new home, and now they thought they had run into the guardians of a war zone. Nina discovered something that made the situation even worse. "Admiral, I'm detecting some kind of telepathic connection between the alien ships. When one group feels fear, it spreads to all the others. The panic is growing stronger with each ship that arrives." Lucy received more transmissions from the Alves alien fleet. The messages were being broadcast in all directions, warning any aliens who might be listening. "Admiral, they're sending out distress signals across multiple star systems. They're telling other species to avoid this area because of dangerous war machines." Carl felt the weight of humanity's future pressing down on him. The first contact with alien life was turning into a disaster. Instead of making friends, humans were accidentally creating enemies and spreading fear across the galaxy. Danny Walsh stood beside his admiral, watching the alien fleet arrange itself in a defensive formation. "What do we do, Carl? If we move closer, they'll panic more. If we stay here, they'll think we're blocking their escape." Victoria Stone reported from her tactical station. "Admiral, the alien ships have no weapons, but they're taking positions that suggest they're protecting something. There must be billions of beings in that fleet." Carl made a difficult decision. All stop. Cut engines and power down non-essential systems. I don't want them to think we're preparing to attack. The bridge crew followed orders, and the Colossus came to a complete stop in space. But the damage was already done. The alien fleet continued to spread out, with more ships arriving every few hours. Each new arrival increased the fear and made the situation worse. Lucy translated a final message from Harmony of Distant Stars. The alien leader sounded tired and sad. They're preparing to leave our galaxy entirely, Admiral. They think this whole region of space is too dangerous for peaceful beings. Carl stared at the beautiful alien fleet and knew that humanity's greatest achievement had become their greatest failure. The massive warship that was meant to protect human colonies was driving away the first aliens they had ever met. Admiral Carl Henderson stood on the bridge of the Colossus, watching the alien refugee fleet prepare to leave forever. 27 beautiful ships floated in space, their living hulls dim with fear and sadness. In a few hours, they would jump to another galaxy, and humanity would be alone again. Carl could not let that happen. He made a decision that shocked everyone on the bridge. Lucy, send a message to Harmony of Distant Stars, Carl said. Tell them I want to invite a small group aboard our ship. Tell them I want to show them who we really are. Danny Walsh stepped forward with concern. Carl, that's against every security protocol we have. We don't know anything about their biology or their intentions. Carl looked at his old friend. Danny, they're running away because they think we're monsters. The only way to change that is to prove we're not. Helen Price, the security chief, shook her head. Admiral, if something goes wrong, if they're carrying diseases, or if this is some kind of trick, you could endanger the entire ship. Carl had thought about these risks, but he knew the bigger risk was letting the aliens leave with the wrong idea about humanity. Dr. Grant, would you be willing to lead a diplomatic mission? Nina Grant nodded without hesitation. Yes, sir. This is what I've trained for my whole life. Lucy sent Carl's invitation to the alien fleet. For an hour, there was no response. Then Harmony of Distant Stars replied with a message full of confusion and disbelief. The alien could not understand why the humans would invite anyone aboard. Their terrible war machine. Finally, Lucy received confirmation. Admiral, they're sending a small shuttle with 3 representatives. Harmony of Distant Stars will be among them. Dr. Ron Clark, the chief medical officer, prepared the shuttle bay to receive alien visitors. He set up medical scanners and emergency equipment, not knowing what to expect. Ron had spent years studying human biology, but alien life was completely unknown. The Serenari shuttle approached the Colossus slowly, like a scared animal approaching a predator. The small vessel looked like a glowing seed pulsing with nervous energy. It docked with the human ship as gently as a butterfly landing. On a flower, Carl met the aliens in the shuttle bay with Nina, Ron, and a small group of crew members. When the shuttle door opened, 3 beings emerged that took Carl's breath away. The Serenari were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to be made of living crystal. They glowed with soft inner light and moved like they were swimming through the air. Harmony of Distant Stars was the largest, standing nearly 3 meters tall, with patterns of blue and green light flowing across its body. Welcome aboard the Colossus, Carl said, hoping his words would translate properly. We are honored to meet you. Harmony of Distant Stars spoke in musical tones that Lucy's translation system converted to human speech. We are grateful for your invitation, but we do not understand. Why do the great warriors allow peaceful beings into their fortress? Nina stepped forward with a gentle smile. We're not warriors. We're explorers and protectors. Would you like you as to show you our ship? The aliens followed Nina through the corridors of the Colossus, but they stayed close together and jumped at every sound. They expected to see weapons and war machines everywhere. Instead, Nina led them to the hydroponics bays. "This is where we grow our food," Nina explained as they entered a large room filled with green plants and flowing water. "We carry gardens with us so our people can have fresh food during long journeys." The Serenari stared in amazement. The room looked more like a park than part of a warship. Children played between the plant rows while their parents tended the crops. The aliens had never seen warriors who brought families and gardens into space. Nina continued the tour, showing them the schools where human children learned about science and art. She showed them the medical bays, where Dr. Clark healed sick crew members. She showed them the workshops, where artists created beautiful things to make the long space voyage more pleasant. One of the younger, Serenari, had been injured during their panicked flight from the human ship. Its crystal skin was cracked and dim. Dr. Clark gently examined the alien and applied a healing gel that worked on both human and Serenari biology. "Your healer helps us even though we are strangers," Harmony of Distant Stars said with wonder. "This is not the behavior of conquerors." Mary Kim, the cultural liaison officer, showed the aliens recordings of human music, art, and literature. The Serenari were fascinated by human creativity and especially loved the music. They hummed along with simple melodies, their bodies pulsing in rhythm with the songs. As the tour continued, the aliens began to relax. They saw that the Colossus was not just a weapon. It was a city in space, home to thousands of families who had never hurt anyone. Finally, Nina brought the aliens to the ship's central computer core, where they could see recordings of Earth's history. She showed them asteroids that had threatened human worlds, solar flares that could destroy entire colonies, and cosmic radiation storms that killed everything in their path. "This is why we build ships like the Colossus," Nina explained. "Not to attack others, but to protect our people from the dangers of space. The universe is full of things that can destroy life, and we learn to defend against them." Harmony of Distant Stars watched the recordings with growing understanding. The aliens saw images of human ships rescuing colonists from natural disasters, fighting off cosmic threats, and building shelters on dangerous worlds. "You are not warriors," the alien said slowly. "You are guardians. You build fortress ships because your space is dangerous, not because you seek to harm others." Carl nodded. "We build weapons because we have to, not because we want to. We hope never to use them against living beings." The alien delegation returned to their shuttle with completely changed minds about humanity. As they flew back to their fleet, Harmony of Distant Stars broadcast the truth to all the refugee ships. The humans were not cosmic destroyers. They were protectors who had learned to survive in a dangerous universe. The truth about humanity spread through the Serenari fleet like ripples in a pond. Within hours, the beautiful alien ships began moving closer to the Colossus instead of away from it. Their hulls brightened with colors of relief and hope instead of fear and panic. Admiral Carl Henderson stood on his bridge, watching the alien fleet arrange itself around his massive warship. For the first time in days, he felt hopeful about first contact. But that hope was about to be tested in ways he never expected. Harmony of Distant Stars requested another meeting with the human leaders. This time, the alien brought representatives from other ships in the fleet. Dr. Nina Grant welcomed them aboard the Colossus, and they gathered in the ship's main conference room. "Admiral Henderson, Harmony of Distant Stars began. It's crystalline, body pulsing with urgent colors. Now that we understand your true nature, we must tell you why we fled our home. You and your people are in great danger." Carl leaned forward in his chair. "What kind of danger?" The alien's light grew dim with sadness. "Our star system was consumed by beings we call the Devourers. They are creatures of pure hunger that eat entire worlds, turning planets into empty shells. They follow life energy across space, hunting any species that shines brightly with intelligence. Nina felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying these devourers followed you here? Another Serenari representative, one with silver patterns flowing across its skin, spoke up. We tried to hide our escape route, but the devourers are very good at tracking fleeing prey. They may already be following our trail toward this region of space. Kevin Murphy quickly ran calculations on his computer. How long would it take them to reach human territory? Perhaps weeks, perhaps months. Harmony of Distant Stars replied, but they will come. They always come. Carl felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Not only was he protecting human colonies, but now he was responsible for an entire alien civilization seeking refuge in human space. We'll protect you, Carl said without hesitation. That's what the Colossus was built for. The Serenari representatives looked at each other with amazement. Never before had they met a species willing to defend strangers against such terrible enemies. Over the next few weeks, an incredible partnership began to form. Dr. Grant established the first interspecies research station aboard the Colossus, where human scientists worked alongside Serenari bioengineers. The aliens shared their advanced knowledge of living technology, while humans taught them about defensive strategies and protective systems. Frank Adams was fascinated by Serenari bioships. Admiral, their ships can heal themselves when damaged, and they grow stronger by absorbing energy from stars. If we could combine that with our shield technology and weapon systems, we'd have the perfect defensive fleet. Captain Danny Walsh began training exercises with mixed human and Serenari crews. The aliens learned how to operate human defensive systems, while humans discovered how to work with living ships that responded to thought and emotion rather than computer commands. The peaceful cooperation was interrupted when long-range sensors detected exactly what everyone feared. Greg Taylor's voice was tense as he reported to the bridge. Admiral, we have multiple contacts approaching from deep space. They match the energy signatures the Serenari described for Devourer scout ships. Carl felt his heart rate increase, but his voice remained calm. How many? At least 50 vessels, possibly more. They're moving fast and heading directly for our position. The Devourer ships looked nothing like the beautiful Serenari vessels. They were dark, twisted things that seemed to absorb light rather than create it. They moved through space like hungry predators stalking prey. All ships, battle stations, Carl ordered. This is what we trained for. The combined human Serenari fleet moved into defensive formation. The Colossus took the center position, its massive guns preparing to fire. Around it, 27 Serenari bioships arranged themselves in a protective pattern, their living hulls glowing with power drawn from nearby stars. Lucy Torres coordinated communications between all the ships in the fleet. Human tactical knowledge flowed to Serenari vessels, while alien biotechnology enhanced human weapons systems. The two species worked together as if they had been allies for years instead of weeks. Devourers attacked without warning or communication. They simply came forward like a swarm of hungry insects, trying to overwhelm the defenders through sheer numbers. But they had never faced anything like the combined fleet. The Colossus fired its massive weapons, while Serenari ships channeled star energy into focused beams that could burn through Devourer hulls. Human shields protected the bioships, while alien healing technology repaired damaged human vessels. Victoria Stone coordinated the battle from her tactical station. Enemy formation is breaking up. They're not used to prey that fights back this effectively. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the Devourer scout fleet was destroyed or retreating. Not a single human or Serenari ship was lost, though several needed repairs. Carl stood on his bridge, looking out at the mixed fleet of human and alien vessels. The sight filled him with pride and hope for the future. Admiral, Harmony of Distant Stars, sent a message from the flagship of the Serenari fleet. Your people have given us something we thought was lost forever. Hope for the future. We pledge our biotechnology and our loyalty to the alliance between our species. Over the following months, the partnership grew stronger. Serenari colony ships settled in human space under the protection of the Colossus and other human vessels. Joint research stations developed new technologies that combined the best of both civilizations. Carl often stood at his bridge window, watching human and Serenari ships working together in space. The massive warship that had once frightened the peaceful aliens was now the symbol of protection and friendship between two very different species. Colossus continued its mission as guardian of human space, but now it protected much more than just human colonies. It had become the flagship of the galaxy's first interspecies alliance, proving that sometimes the biggest weapons make the best tools for peace.